Hey, storytellers, welcome back to our Wednesday live stream. I missed you guys last week, but I was happily engaged teaching at a writing conference with some wonderful writers. So I hope you had a good writing week. I'm Mary Rose Wood, and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific is when I go live on my YouTube channel and in the Path of the Storyteller Facebook group to talk about writing craft, story structure, and anything else that's on your mind. I'm here to serve. Writing is not an easy or simple practice. Mentorship is essential. So call me coach and throw me your questions. You're able to participate live. That's wonderful. If you're here right now, welcome. And I'm just going to open up the comment box, say hello. Hey, Terry, good to see you here. Already a question posted, which is terrific. In fact, let me bring it right up as a way of introducing our topic. Terry says, I've had many beginnings that don't Many big innings. Oh, beginnings. I'm going to call them beginnings. I have had many beginnings that don't lead to middles because of the very question we're going to discuss today, which I'll announce in a second. Is it the mission or is it resistance? So good. Terry has summarized it beautifully. Today, we are going to talk about what's your book about? What's it about? And it's not just an idle question. It's not just a marketing question. And it's not just to give you something fun to say at parties when somebody asks you what's your book about. It's actually the key to successfully finishing the book and having the book be worth your reader's time, a coherent and rewarding and satisfactory experience for the reader. Nancy, I'm waving hi to you in the comments. Thank you so much for being here live. So today we're going to talk about what's your book about. I'm going to talk exactly what Terry mentions. I'm going to talk about why it's so hard to know sometimes, why we can be so resistant to just distilling it into a sentence, believe it or not. And we're going to talk about some of that, and then I'm going to offer you what I hope is a very useful and practical kind of three-part framework for coming up with that sentence. And if you hang around to the end, there's even a bonus one-word challenge that we may throw at you. You never know. You never know. Waving hi to Kelly in the comments. It's so nice to see you here, Kelly. So those of you who are here live, I really want you to participate and help me out. And if you're watching on the replay, remember that you can leave comments below this video and I will see them and you can ask questions and I will get back to you. So what's your book about? What's your book about? This question is one of those questions that, you know, writers can be very difficult to live with. Let me just start by saying that, because our work is solitary. Our work has this solitary quality about it. It's us and the monster, you know, in the back room typing away with our headphones on. And the part of the difficulty of being a writer is living with the solitude and the difficulty. And there's a kind of an aloneness about it, you know. And we go out into the world and maybe we have friends, family, partners. We go out into society at a gathering, at a casual gathering, and somebody says, "What did you do today? What are you up to lately?" And we might be brave enough to say, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm working on a book." And the first thing that's going to happen is their little faces are going to light up and they say, "Oh, a book. Oh, what's it about?" Look how innocent that is, how filled with goodwill, with love, with good intention. But nothing strikes fear into the writer's heart like being asked, "So, what's it about?" Because what happens? We immediately start fumfering. We're like, "Well, I'm still figuring it out. It's kind of, you know, there's this woman and she's like not happy and she's this and her boyfriend that and her kids that and she has this issue." And literally the person who asked us with such enthusiasm, you can see their eyes glazing over. They're, you know, like, waiter, they're ready to go. We didn't give them the answer that they wanted. And it's because, why? Is it because we're shy about saying no? It's because we don't know. We don't know. It's hard to accept that we can work really hard on a book that is really important to us, and we can spend a really long time working on it. We can write a lot of words. We can write a lot of pages. We can invest time in, going to seminars and taking classes and doing all kinds of things and still not have the answer to that question close at hand. What's the book about? So let me circle back to Terry's astute sharing. Either you don't know what the book is about, which is what we're going to solve today, I promise you, or you're resistant to knowing what the book is about. And let me talk about the resistance piece of it first, because I think it's the key here. You may not trust simplicity. You may resist believing that it's actually beneficial to be able to answer that question. You may feel that if I could sum up my book in one sentence, then obviously it's not a very good book. It's bigger than that. It's so much more than that. I have a bigger vision for it. I have so many ideas. I couldn't just sum it up in one sentence. And that is a form of resistance that is using, I guess what we could call a sort of a noble excuse, a kind of an ego-serving deflection of saying, well, yeah, I know there are some books that could be summed up in one sentence, but the book that I'm writing it's more complicated than that. It's a little bit like, yeah, I'm a special pony here. This isn't your usual book. It's just got more going on. That's resistance. That's just resistance. The reluctance, the refusal, the resistance to actually knowing what your book is about might also come from an unwillingness to decide, because you have several impulses, right? You have several ideas that are tugging at you. You have a few characters and you're not sure which one might be the main character. You have a few story ideas. You have a lot of ideas. You just have a lot of different ideas. And the minute you decide which one the book is about, it's like all the others are roads not taken. And well, it's just like life, isn't it? We choose one thing and then all of a sudden other potential choices fade. They are no longer the option. This book cannot be the book that it would be if that character were the main one. It's going to be the book that it is if this character were the main one. And so we're reluctant to do something that feels like shutting off possibility, right? Cutting off our creativity. We feel like it's just ruling things out that we don't feel ready to let go of. We have to let certain ideas fly the nest so we could focus on the central one. So that is another form of resistance. Oh, Kelly, I love what you just posted. I'm going to share it up also. So there's a kind of an emotional pressure that we can put on ourselves as well. Kelly is putting her hopes and dreams into the story, and that's too much pressure. And she herself knows, self-mentoring to reconfigure expectations, right? So putting all your hopes and dreams into a story is another kind of pressure, because that's one of those situations, and Kelly, believe me, that's very relatable, it's very human, where we've undertaken to do something big and difficult, and we're doing it not just for the intrinsic motivation of it feels good to do it, I feel compelled to do it, but we're starting to stitch on hopes and dreams. We're starting to imagine how it's going to change our lives, who we might be at the end of this journey. A certain amount of that is motivating. A certain amount of, I will feel so good to know that I finally got this story down, the story that's been living in my mind, that I got it down on paper, that I'm sharing it with the world, that I was able to finish something, just knowing how good that's going to feel is definitely motivating. It's definitely motivating. But if you put all your hopes and dreams, that's like a gambler's mentality, right? Like, I'm going to wager everything. I'm going to put all my chips on this. The level of stress and anxiety that's going to raise in you is antithetical to creative thinking, to being open, to being as playful and willing to make a mess as we have to be in order to do decent creative work. We can't always be watching ourselves saying, get it right, get it right. A lot is riding on this, because the very nature of creativity is that you have to spend a lot of time getting it wrong. And if you don't give yourself space to get it wrong, you're never going to get it right. Okay, so that's a great one. Thank you for raising that, Kelly. So there are all kinds of ways that we can resist the imperative to know what our book is about. You know, we just, and let me throw in one more before we start to get into how to, how to actually make that decision and how to distill it. Sometimes what our book is about is personal, is very personal. It's resonant with maybe some of our own ongoing adventures of personal growth. There's an exercise that I love to do near the beginning of my training in the Path of the Storyteller program, where I ask my students to write a 6-word memoir. It's a very easy exercise, and I highly recommend it to everyone. It's just what it sounds like. 6 words, that's all you've got. Write your memoir. Who are you? What's the story of your life in 6 words? What I find and what the writers find is that if they do this exercise thoughtfully, not glibly, but thoughtfully, there will be something that they reveal about themselves, about what their struggles have been and what their dreams remain, that is going to show up over and over again in their work. And often it comes as a shock, because this is a book that they were working on thinking, oh, I'm writing this book so that I can get an agent, so I can have a career, blah, 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 blah. And then it sort of comes down to the realization that you were writing this book to stir the pot of your own psyche. Yes, you'll finish it and maybe it'll be a masterpiece. You'll get an agent and launch a career. I hope it does. But fundamentally, the thing that was personal about the book was the flame that was burning all along. That was really the true inspiration. And recognizing that on a conscious level is empowering. If you haven't recognized it on a conscious level, whatever part of you that likes to keep your personal vulnerability hidden might also want to keep throwing sand in your eyes every time you get close to understanding what your book is about. So that's the last one. So listen, we always go deep here on Wednesdays. You know that by now. I'm not here to tell you like where to put your commas. We're here to really talk about writing, okay? So those are some forms of resistance, internal and external. So are you ready? Good. I hope you are. You have to know what your book is about. And if you truly know what your book is about, you will be able to say it in one sentence. This is useful not only later on when you're writing your query letter. It is so useful even in the very, very early stages of writing. You can spend a long time trying to write a book without knowing what it's about, and the time you waste will be your own. So if you've got all the time in the world to waste, have at it. I would like to save you some time. So that's what we're going to do. All right. What is the one sentence version? Let me tell you what it's not. It's not the review blurb of your dreams. And I see this very, very often, that a writer will say, oh, I can tell you I can tell you what my book is about in one sentence. I'm like, okay, go ahead. And they'll be like, in this breathless tale, packed with courage, romance, and Italian food, a woman named Mary Rose confronts her darkest fears, faces her challenges, heals old wounds, and discovers what's truly important in life. And they'll be really happy with that. And they'll be like, amazing, right? Like, that's what my book is about. And I'm like, I literally don't know what your book is about. You used a lot of feelings. I know what you want. I know what feeling you want to give the reader. That's clear. You want the reader to have, to really have an intense emotional experience. You want a character who's going to have all kinds of transformation. Fantastic. That is what we all want. We all want all of our stories to create that feeling of emotionality in the reader, like, wow, I was so on board that I was like hanging on every plot twist and every emotional fluctuation. And the character went through such a journey. They changed so much. That's great. That's every story. That's called a good story. We all want to set out to write a good story. That's not what I'm talking about. Let's take away the abstractions. Let's look for specificity. Good writing is specific, and it has been said by many, and I'm going to say it again because it bears repeating. We achieve universality in our art by being specific. So the funny little goofball one-liner that I just shared with you tries to be about everything, and therefore it is about nothing. I hope that's making sense to everybody out there. It's trying to be about everything, and therefore it's about nothing. Unwilling to commit to specifics, the writer fails to actually accomplish what they've set out to do, which is to write a great story that's going to resonate with the readers. So the first thing I want you guys to think about is that specificity is your friend. All right? Our book is about something specific. It is not all books. It is this book. It is the book only we could write. So, a 3-part framework. And if you have been watching these videos, as soon as I say 3 parts, you should be a little bit like, wait, 3 parts. Isn't that the same thing as story structure? Isn't that like first act, second act, third act? Very good, my friends. You're way ahead of me. First part of your one-line summary of what your book is about is this. It's a hero plus a vulnerability. Now, I want you to think about this, because right away, I'm asking you to make a crucial decision about your book. And that decision is this. Who is the main character? Who is the main character? It's not 70% this character and 30% another character, all right? It's not a group of siblings. It's not, a gang of friends. There is a main character. There is one. I want you to pick one. And I would love to hear if anybody's having trouble picking their main character, and if so, why. We imagine characters for the most part in the context. They have a family, they have a career, they have a school, they're part of a society, as are we all. That doesn't mean that every character in your story, your well-populated story, is created equal. There is a main character. I call that character the hero, so I'm going to do that today too. It's a hero plus vulnerability. So the first thing you must do is decide who your main character is. The vulnerability is key. Your main character has something about them that you can simply name that makes them vulnerable, that makes them in need of something to change, right? So if my main character, like if I'm doing Wizard of Oz, right? If I'm doing the movie Wizard of Oz, my main character is Dorothy. That's it. It's clear. She's my main character. But what's her vulnerability when we meet her? She's terribly lonely. She's got no one but her dog. So a hero plus vulnerability is a lonely farm girl. That's it. That's the first phrase. Think about other heroes that you might have in you're on your bookshelves. You can be thinking about the hero of your own book. That's fine. But you'll see that every hero has some vulnerability. You know, even if that vulnerability is youth and inexperience. I sometimes mention a Kipling story that's a model of very good story structure, beautifully written story called Rikki Tikki Tavi. If the main character is a mongoose, and when we meet him, he's a baby. He's a baby mongoose. He's very young. He's inexperienced. His job, as we're going to learn, is to kill cobras. That's a mongoose's destiny. But when we meet him, he's never seen a snake in his life. So he's vulnerable. A young, inexperienced mongoose. A lonely Kansas farm girl. Hero plus vulnerability. Okay, so that's how we begin. That's the first part. What's the second? It's a 3-part framework. Hero plus vulnerability is the first. The second part is the mission. What does our hero do in this story? What are they trying to do? Not what are they feeling. What are they trying to do? This is really challenging for many, many writers because they don't know. They've got the sense of a hero. They've got a world, whatever they imagined as the kind of the seed, the starting point for this inspiration for this particular book, right? Might have been very emotional and character driven, but they haven't yet thought of what the hero is actually going to do. I know writers who write whole books trying to figure out what the hero is going to do. So I encourage you, for the sake of this exercise, to just come up with something that your hero's going to do. And that they're doing it for a reason. You know, it's a purpose. It's not random. It has some purpose. It's something that they really need to do. That's why I use the word mission, because mission is not like hobby, right? Mission has a quality of I have to do this. It's necessary for me to do this. So what is it necessary for your hero to do? I will pull an example. Behind me is my most recent novel. It's called Alice's Farm, A Rabbit's Tale. And its hero is a rabbit named Alice on a farm. The title says it all. And what Alice is going to do in this book is save the farm. She's going to save the farm. That is her home. Now, what is she going to save it from? She's going to save it from the incompetence of the sweet urban family from Brooklyn who bought it without knowing how to farm, thinking it would be cool and Instagrammable to have an organic farm up in the Hudson Valley. Bless their hearts. You know, there but for the grace of God go I. I would so love to be a hipster farmer in the Hudson Valley. Like, that's like one of my paths not taken. And who knows, it's not over yet. I may yet have a go at it. But that's what she's going to do. There's all kinds of details about it, what happens, how she managed, all these things. But what she's going to do, I can tell you in a sentence. She's going to save the farm by learning to farm. That's how she's going to do it. She's going to do the farming herself because the humans are too naive to do it right. That's what she's going to do. Wilbur the Pig in Charlotte's Web, another story on a farm. He's a hero plus vulnerability, isn't he? He's a pig born on a farm. His vulnerability is that we know what happens to pigs on farms, don't we? They get slaughtered. There is bacon sizzling in the pan in the opening scene of Charlotte's Web. So Wilbur is a pig born on a farm. And what is he going to do? He is going to fight to stay alive. He's going to do everything he can do to stay alive. And what he ends up focusing on doing is he's going to win a prize or make a certain kind of impression at the county fair so that he won't be slaughtered. So a pig on a farm strives to win a ribbon at the county fair to save his own life. There's so much more to Charlotte's Web than that. But what I just told you is a hero plus a vulnerability and what he does, his mission. Okay? So you might have already noticed that hero plus vulnerability is a very, very quick way of describing the nuances and complexities that we establish in a fully developed first act of storytelling, right? You might also, if you've been watching these videos, recognize that when I say the second part of this three-part framework is to describe your hero's mission in just a few words. What is your hero going to do? Is actually a very succinct way of describing the whole complexity of escalating tests and change and growth and ongoing escalating challenges that actually comprise the second act of a well-structured story. So we're on to something, aren't we? It's the first act plus the second act. We have one more act to go, though. And here's my little shortcut cue for you in this three-part framework. It's hero plus vulnerability on a mission only to find ... Now that only to find ... is actually the doorway to what will be your third act. So let's go back to Dorothy Gale, right? Lonely Kansas farm girl. Deserted an Emerald City in order to make her way home. Only to find that the wizard is a fake. That's what The Wizard of Oz is about in one sentence. Now, I don't give you the ending. What does she do after she finds that the wizard is a fake? Well, that is the third act of your story, and I'm not going to concern myself with making you tell me what the exact ending is right now, because chances are you don't know. For the purposes of this exercise, this is enough. Hero plus vulnerability goes on a mission only to find. Now look at that only. There's an element of surprise. What I'm asking you to do is to send your hero on a mission to accomplish something very specific and then have something unexpected happen. Something complicates the story. Okay? So the complication that happens when your hero finally gets to the moment where their mission is, being fulfilled or supposed to be being fulfilled is exactly what opens the door to your third act. Let me think of another example that might be fun for you guys. Oh, A Wrinkle in Time is a fun example, right? Insecure teenage girl goes on a quest to rescue her father. Let's make it a quest across the universe, because that is certainly what makes Wrinkle in Time specific and special, right? Insecure teenage girl goes on a quest across the universe to rescue her father. That is, in fact, what she does, only to find that she has to now rescue her younger brother as well. Only to find that she must express love for the villain of the story in order to get what she wants. Think about it. She gets to the point where her mission is on the cusp of being accomplished. In fact, she does rescue her father, only to find that now her younger brother is in danger and the thing that she must do. is quite difficult. It's personal. Now, you may not know that last piece. I want to just emphasize that. You may not really know what your hero has to do in order to pull that third act together until you know your story very well. That's often a beautiful surprise for the writer. Sometimes we come up with something, and by the time we get to it, we know our characters and our stories so much better that initial idea seems a little banal, seems a little glib, superficial. The deeper and more surprising idea often comes later. So I'm not worried about that right now, but I am I am urging you to force yourself to come up with some sort of unexpected twist. Hero plus vulnerability goes on a mission only to find. All right. Now, I hope that is a kind of a clear little exercise. Some of you might be trying to do it right now, and that's fine. Some of you may just be taking notes and saying, I'm going to do that later. But the hardest part of this for most writers is clarity of the mission, in my opinion. Leave it in the comments if you agree or disagree with that. Most of us have a really hard time just picking that one thing that our heroes got to do. And there's a reason for that. That one thing is the entire second act of our book. It's most of our book. It is, in fact, what the book is about, right? It's about a girl trying to get home to Kansas. It's about a girl trying to find her father. It's about a rabbit trying to save her home, right? By learning to farm. It's one thing. That's the commitment we're making. It's like we have to make a commitment to that one thing and forsake all others. Because once we make that commitment, our story has found its balance beam. It has found that kind of narrow lane of possibilities that are going to take our hero from where they begin to where they end. And this is true even of very complicated stories. I mean, I can pull out the Harry Potter example, which I know many people are familiar with, though not all. But let's do it for Harry Potter. You know, a hero plus vulnerability for Harry Potter, a mistreated, orphaned boy. That's a hero plus vulnerability. Goes to wizard school and finally finds a sense of belonging and his true power, only to find that it is his destiny, his personal destiny, to defeat the most powerful evil wizard of all. Now, if I just say that to you, it just sounds like a pretty good story, does it not? It's pretty clear. There are like 7 books of complications, subplots, subsidiary characters, flashbacks, you know, character motivation, growth and change. There's so much. But that sentence never stops being an accurate description of what the story is about. And so for anybody who's thinking, yeah, but it's more complicated, I can't just boil it down to one thing, you know, I challenge you to look at that and call it resistance. And I challenge you to say, no, wait a minute, I can boil it down. I just have to choose the one thing. I have to choose the one thing. So I'm going to keep an eye on the comments. I would love to know from you whether you're thinking, no, I could never, or I see why I haven't, or, you know, it's, you know, let me hear from you. And I want to throw in, now that we've talked to our 3-part framework, right? Hero plus vulnerability goes on a specific mission, a singular and specific mission, only to find. There's something else I want to throw at you. Because if you do a good job with this, actually, let me add this to my exploration of why the theme is the middle, the mission is the most important part. It's because that mission is not random. It's because it's not random, and we intuitively know, even without me, you know, gently hectoring you, we intuitively know that mission has to mean something. It has to mean, it has to be the very adventure that is going to help our main character go on a journey of transformation. There's a phrase I use in Path of the Storyteller. Some of you may have heard me use it here. The mission that your hero goes on, it's a bespoke suit of adventure. It is not off the rack. It is not one size fits all. It is the very particular adventure that's going to bring that character into contact with the journey of transformation that they are on, that they need, that they uniquely need. And so since we know that, it may be hard. It may be hard to say, well, you know, sure, my main character is a pig. It's a farm. He doesn't want to die. I got it. Nobody wants to die. But what exactly is he going to do about it? Like, what exactly is he going to do about it? And so then the conceit of, well, what if there's a county fair at the end of the season? And what if it's decided, what if he realizes that if he can accomplish something special there, that he won't get killed? That's that's very specific now. And if you don't know and you have an idea that's specific, try it. The refusal to commit to a specific idea is not going to help you. It's just going to hold you back. Try it. If it turns out that you come up with a better specific idea, then that's what rewrites are for. That's what revision is for. But sending your hero in pursuit of nothing in particular is not going to work. It's going to get you in a situation that too many writers call writer's block, running out of ideas, lack of discipline. I got to a certain point and I just gave up. I lost interest. I didn't, that's not what it is. You didn't pick a mission for the second act. I'm diagnosing this with real specificity because that's almost always what it is. If we knew what the hero's mission was, we would be fighting to get back into the writing chair because we know where they're going. We want to bring that story to completion. We know what happens next in some way, shape, or form. Even if we haven't figured out all the details, we know that what happens next is that our hero is going to do the next logical thing to pursue their mission. That's going to be what happens next. We just have to figure it out. But that we know what happens next. I always say when we work from a place of appreciation of story structure and using story structure craft in our work, the page is never completely blank. So all of those fears about the blank page, the blank page, writer's block, they evaporate because the page is never blank. The page has on it, it's sort of imprinted in the DNA of that blank page. We're in the second act. My hero is in pursuit of a mission. I know what the mission is. And so in this scene, my hero's already tried several things. Now they're going to try something else. They're moving on. They've been partway down the yellow brick road. Now they're going to go the next little piece. What will they discover this time? I got myself excited talking about second acts. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Rosalind, great. Glad you're here. Wonderful. Okay, I got some really wonderful comments coming up. Kelly's having a good moment already. I see where I'm struggling. I have 2 missions. I need to select one. Kelly, I'm like throwing rose petals on you through the screen. Awesome. That's really, really great. Nancy's got a point, and I'm gonna move on to this topic of theme. This is sort of a perfect segue, Nancy. It seems like there are larger and smaller missions. Are there, though? Are there? Let's unpack that. The bigger ones could be related to themes. What level should the mission be? All right. So I'm going to talk about themes. But when I put the notion of choosing a mission in front of you guys, I'm not choosing larger and smaller missions. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying there's one. I'm saying that there's never a moment. Once Meg Murray accepts the mission to go rescue her father with this glorious group of you know, how do we even describe them? They present themselves as witches, but obviously they're not. And her brother and her friend Calvin, once she accepts the mission to go rescue her dad from the evil forces that are keeping him imprisoned on the other side of the universe, that is the mission. That is the mission. It is one singular mission. So when we start thinking, well, there seem to be smaller missions and larger missions, I think that's not an accurate use of the terminology that I'm using, Nancy, in the way that I'm using it, because I'm saying that the mission is one thing, and it's going to last from the beginning of the second act or the end of the first act, usually, to the end of the second act. It's a single mission. Bilbo Baggins leaves his home to run off with a pack of dwarves in order to get to this mountain and face this dragon and steal back the ancestral gold that belongs to the dwarves. So many things happen along the way in the second act, but the mission never changes. That remains the mission all the way through the second act. There's no scene, there's no incident that is not some segment of crossing the balance beam. And I use that image advisedly because it is a narrow path. Bilbo's always on his mission. Now, when you say there are larger and smaller missions, here's a different set of terminology that I would offer, just so we don't mix up or dilute what I mean by the mission, the singular mission. The second act is long. It's most of your book. And so within the second act, there are going to be all these little like mini adventures. I call them snow globes of adventure. There's this sort of one big adventure, but within it, there are all of these little escapades, these little mini adventures. Things happen. That's the whole point of the second act. Things happen. We try something. The hero does something in order to accomplish the larger goal, but they have to break it down, just as we do in life. They break it down into steps. They don't always know the full map, right, of how they're going to get there, but they're always on the journey. Dorothy goes down the yellow brick road. She doesn't know she's about to meet a scarecrow and a tin man and a cowardly lion, fall into a field of poppies. Things happen, right? Once she meets the tin man, the mission is to get him unstuck, right? That's her little mini mission for that little snow globe of adventure. They're going to find the oil can. They're going to repair him. And now she's going to have a new friend to travel with. So that kind of like small component part is what a second act is made of. They're like pearls on a string in the second act, if that makes sense. But all of them are on the yellow brick road on the way to the Emerald City. If that's a useful way to remember it, take it to heart, okay? So I just wanted to clarify it. I'm really glad you said that. All right, so that's our three-part framework, but I wanted to touch on this idea of theme that Nancy introduced. Once we are playing with that, hero with a vulnerability goes on a mission only to find there's that third act twist. Here's the bonus round. That was one sentence. In one word, can you state something like a theme? What is the book about thematically? The sentence tells us what it is about in the realm of storytelling. What happens? What journey are we taking the reader on? It's going to be a girl going across the universe. It's going to be a pig in escapades with help from other farm animals trying to save his life. Like, okay, we get it. It's going to be rabbits trying to learn to farm and stay alive to harvest season so they can make sure that the farm that they live on doesn't get sold to a real estate developer, right? That's what it's about on the surface. That's what the reader can see. That's the story. If someone asks them, like, I read this great book, what's it about? They're going to say, okay, cool. There are these rabbits and they do this and that. And right. That's what it's about on the outside. But the theme in one word is, what is all of this symbolic activity, this visible dreamscape? What is it pointing to in terms of basic themes? Now, I say basic not because I mean, simple. These kinds of themes are so complex that they are at the heart of human experience. And you could make a list of them. I made a list of them, and I'll reel them off for you in a second. But honestly, most of the stories that you love are going to revolve around a fairly short list of themes, because these are the timeless conundrums of being human. I was thinking about some of the stories that I've referenced in this talk. Greed is a theme. Family is a theme. Grief is certainly a theme. Coming of age, or if you want to be really strict about my one-word rule, you could call it maturation, you know. There's some others that I thought of. Friendship is very much a theme. And so when I think of words like those are what I consider thematic words. Yes, it's a book about a pig trying to save his own life, right? Only to find that he's lost, that he's unable to save the life of his dearest friend, and it is now within his power to save her children. That is the third act of Charlotte's Web, right? It's a book about mortality, and it's a book about friendship. It's a book about friendship, is that life is swift, and we're all on a ticking clock, and what makes it a joy and bearable as we go through the journey is friendship. So those kinds of ideas will very much be at play in your work as well, because you are a human being and you are drawing from that well. A wonderful novel like Bud Not Buddy, which is also a father quest type story. Bud, the character Bud, goes on his quest to find the fellow that he thinks is his father. But that book, so the book is about family for sure, but it's also about grief. It's about a family that was torn apart by grief, and Bud's attempt to do his mission. Bud's brave. The things that he's willing to do to find his dad are really wonderful. And his heroic journey, his definite hero's journey to find his father, heals the grief of the family, and that is the healing of the grief that allows the family to reunite, you know. So these words are golden. And I mentioned that 6-word memoir exercise for a reason, because I think that there may be some themes that you are drawn to that resonate with you. And chances are they resonate with you because of something that's true. Something that's true in your own life experience. And that those are the stories that you're going to love. You're going to love to read them. You're going to love to write them. So that's my challenge, my friends. Let me just quickly sum up, and I'll do a last round looking at the comments for questions. So please feel free to put any final comments in the chat box. 3-part framework for writing the story in one sentence. It's a hero plus vulnerability, goes on a mission only to find. You can say it in one sentence. That's what your book is about. Next time you're at a party, say the sentence and see what happens to people's faces. They'll get it, right? And once you've got that, sit there, gaze into your navel a little bit, and see if you can find the one word that encapsulates thematically what is the value at stake in this story. If you know that, you know so much about your book. You have so much clarity, and you should feel really, really confident about proceeding into the drafting and knowing that you're going to be writing scenes that belong in the book, right? If I'm trying to get across a balance beam and I have people on either side of the gymnasium, like putting helpful cushions and ladders, and it doesn't matter. I don't need to be there. I just need to get across this balance beam. And you're going to save yourself a lot of time by defining some of this stuff up front. So I hope this has been of benefit. And, we're going to wrap up with a great quote from Terry, who is reminded of an important skill from gymnastics days The only way to perform the backflip on the beam is to keep your eye on the place your feet will land. Oh, what a wonderful concluding image for this talk. Absolutely, my friends. If you want to end up on the beam, if you want to write the book that you're intending to write, take a minute to figure out where your feet are going to land. That's the best way to go. All right. Thank you all for being here live. I so appreciate it. I hope this talk has been of benefit. If you are watching on YouTube and you're not already a subscriber to the channel, I politely and humbly implore you to subscribe. It's good for the channel and helps get the word out, and I really appreciate it. And if you are not on my mailing list, please get on it, because we are entering an exciting time. It's www.pathofthestoryteller.com. Just go there, put your name on, because I am going to start sharing information about the upcoming training that Path of the Storyteller offers. We're going to run the program again in the fall. This is our flagship program in story structure and writing craft. It's a semester-long experience. It is a deep and thorough dive, and it's going to take us from September through December. So I'm going to be opening up enrollment in August, having some info sessions. I definitely want to connect with you if you think that this program might be of interest, okay? So please get on the mailing list and you will get all the deets. Always a pleasure. I hope to see you again next week. And I've got some really interesting topics coming up in mind, but I'm always, always eager to hear what's on your minds as well. So please leave comments. Let me know what you'd like to talk about on these Wednesdays. I really enjoy them, and I hope you do as well. Thanks so much, everyone.